The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions, and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. It's Tuesday night. You're listening to Armed Radio, and this is 2AT Second Amendment Talk. I'm Daniel Sanders, and joining me as always is my co-host Rod Burks. Rod, how you doing this evening?
Man, best day of my life. Thanks for asking.
Oh, best day of your life. Well, share with us, please.
Oh, well, it's a day I didn't have yesterday, so any day I'm on this side of the dirt is a day I'm happy about.
Excellent. I couldn't have said it better myself. So, as we do at the start of every show, we want to give a big shout out to the troops out there deployed overseas, men and women serving overseas and on the home front too. We appreciate everything y'all are doing. Keep up the good work and come home safe. Everybody here at home's rooting for you. It's been a week. I'll say that. It has been a week. We got a lot to talk about, and the first thing I'm going to get into is most recently that I've seen in the news was what they're calling a mass shooting at a Walmart in Duncan, Oklahoma, although I wouldn't really classify this as a mass shooting. Yes, technically, by definition, 3 people were killed, and I think they've changed the definition to where when 2 or more people are killed in a single incident, they consider it a mass shooting. But this was more, according to all reports, a domestic violence situation. Man confronted his wife and her new boyfriend in the parking lot. He shot 9 rounds, is what the report says. Fired 9 rounds into the vehicle that they were in, shot and killed them both. And initial reports said an armed bystander, an armed witness, saw what was happening and approached the suspect, who then turned his gun on himself. Now reports are saying that the armed witness never actually made contact with him. Let's see here. One of the investigators, this is a quote from the investigator. We believe he did not actually get in contact with the suspect. He had already turned and shot himself.
Well, I just pulled up a mass shooting, and the United States FBI defines mass murder, anyway, as 4 or more murder during an event with no cooling off period between murders. And based on this, it's generally agreed that mass shooting is whenever 4 or more people are shot, injured, or killed, not including the shooter or shooters. So, there's that's based on what the United States FBI defines as mass murder, so using the word mass as the root. So 4 or more.
Right. Yeah, so, like, I've excuse me. I've seen different definitions from different sources. They say, oh, well, this one's, and we're not going to split hairs over numbers. Simple fact of the matter is, this really could have been a lot worse. I mean, if he was psychotic, and I'm going to use the term, if he was psychotic enough to fire 9 rounds into this one vehicle to get 2 of these people, then there's no telling what else he may have been willing to do. And at this point now, it's really all speculation. We can say, yes, he was confronted by an armed witness, or armed witness tried to confront him before he shot himself. Who knows? But yeah, I think to an extent, the fact that there was an armed bystander there who made the effort to intervene could have potentially stopped this from being a much worse incident.
Yeah, absolutely. Or maybe the shooter finally hit what he was after.
Yeah, again.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a couple of very important points there too, though. You know, like the typical person, you know, somebody who's rational and has some sense about them, doesn't go attacking people, you know, especially with a firearm or anything else, right? And the other is that it was a good guy with a gun that stopped the bad guy with the gun.
Speculating, yes, good, yes. Speculating a good guy with a gun did stop a bad guy with a gun. Of course, really and truly, all we have now is just witness testimony, and maybe security cameras. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe the cameras at this Walmart actually work. But yeah, you know, it's like we've said all along. A good guy with a gun stops a bad guy with a gun. I mean, is it? Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't that why we call cops? Isn't that why we call law enforcement when been a shooting or something like that? Last time I checked, that's why we called police officers.
Yeah, I mean every red-blooded American that serves their nation and wears the cloth of their country is carrying a gun, believes that they're the good guy, and for the purpose of stopping the bad guys, right? I mean, isn't that what we're you know, I don't want to say indoctrinated into, but that's what the answering the call to service is. And it's not even limited just to military. You know, law enforcement, they carry firearms for that very reason, to stop bad guys. So to vilify an inanimate object that is used by the good guys, it's hypocritical. I mean, you know, people are talking out of both sides of their mouth when they call for more gun control, in my opinion.
Yeah, especially when these people that are calling for more gun control, trying to regulate people like you and me, Rod, they're trying to regulate what kind of weapons we can and cannot own. Well, you're a civilian. I don't care how much military training you've had. You're a civilian now, and you shouldn't have access to fully automatic weapons or sound suppressors or 40 millimeter grenade launcher that shoots high explosive dual purpose rounds. You shouldn't have access to any of that. And then here they are walking around with armed security, armed with fully automatic weapons, and you know, the kind of weapons that you and I, unless we pay a shitload of money and go through a very stringent background check, the very weapons you and I cannot have access to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I've said it before. You know, I mean, we're teetering on the precipice of tyranny. You know, whenever something is okay for your government to have, but not for the people. You know, that's exactly in my mind that the only reason you would want to prohibit those that you govern is because you're probably doing something that is being shot about.
Yeah, you know, I'm thinking there's this one guy that I'm thinking about from we learned about him in history class, and his name just totally escapes me right now. I cannot think of his it'll come to me if it, you know, it'll probably be like 3:00 in the morning when I think of it.
What did he do? Maybe we can figure it out.
It was this thing called mass genocide. You know, where he rounded up, first he disarmed a whole bunch of the Jewish population in his country. Hitler! That was the guy's name!
Adolf, yeah, who can forget all that?
Yeah, Adolf Hitler disarmed the Yiddish population of Germany and then subsequently began rounding them up and throwing them into concentration camps. So,
yeah. And he told Poland he wasn't going to come inside, and he did anyway, right?
Yeah, and you know, didn't even give a courtesy call or, you know, wrap it or anything. Just came right inside.
Loosh.
Oh, I just feel like being a particular dick tonight. So, but yeah, you know, at some point, I'm hoping to God at some point, we, the American people, elect somebody into office that has the common sense to say, hey, none of this shit y'all are calling for has worked. Maybe we need to take a look at something else. Me personally, I'd be all for, and I might get some men pull up in black SUVs here in the next week or so for saying this. Me personally, I'm all for having a purge.
12. And I'm not saying that you're wrong. I guess my point is, though, that I don't think we can rely on elected officials to really do a whole lot of anything, especially if they're career politicians. I think
absolutely.
It's important for citizens, people to defend themselves, whether it be against the bad guys of today or a potential bad guy of tomorrow, being the people that we now look to for guidance and leadership. And I've said it before. I'm pro-American until that flag turns on its people. Then they no longer represent what that flag is about. Even if they are government, they become the enemy at that point. And we were talking about it before the show. If we talk about only good guys stop the bad guys, but as soon as they outlaw guns and firearms or military, and I quote, military style rifles, until then, I'm a good guy. If they outlaw those, then I guess by their definition, I'm now the bad guy.
Yeah, and my response to you when you said that was, sometimes doing the right thing isn't always doing the right thing.
Yeah. What is considered right? Doing what is right, what you believe to be is right, and that's a moral, ethical question you have to ask yourself. Just like if you do carry a firearm, if you carry a firearm for somebody else, whether it's a police service, whether it's a private security, whether it's military, mercenaries, private, any of that, those are questions that you have to resolve before you take that step. But when you take that step, it's very liberating. You realize that you don't have to depend on somebody else for your own protection. The reason I carry a gun is because a cop is too heavy, and plus, I don't want him to see every time I get in my car and go over the speed limit. So the gun doesn't snitch.
Yeah, exactly. And it just, we could give hundreds. This is really one of those instances, where first and foremost, being right is really just a matter of perspective. Like you said, it's what you feel is morally right and everything. We as Americans, as Marines, we felt like what we were doing over in Iraq and Afghanistan, helping the people to, and I'll truthfully be honest, at this point, I don't even really know what we were doing over there now, aside from, we got rid of Hussein. We were fighting against, Al-Qaeda terrorist forces and everything, and we were helping the general population of Iraq and Afghanistan. And we felt like that was morally the right thing to do. On the flip side of that coin, and I'm looking at this from the outside looking in, morally speaking, Al-Qaeda terrorists thought it was right for them to fly planes into our World Trade Center, or whatever number of things that they have done. They felt it was morally right. This is how much of a week it's been. I just completely lost my whole train of thought with where I was going with that.
well, that train of thought, kind of sparked something. It reminded me of we were on the border in Afghanistan with Pakistan, and there was a known warlord in the area, and so before the United States had really made a presence in Afghanistan, warlords were your local government or what have you, and anyway, this one particular warlord had Haji Jandad was his name. he had invited us to have a shura, a jirga, whatever, sit down and eat and drink tea and eat, and chat, basically business, is why we were there. And it was abundantly clear to us that this warlord basically was renting out his military age males of those villages, the surrounding villages, to the highest paying bidder, whether they were I can't remember, not NATO, ISAF, that's what it was. I was thinking USAF, but I was like, no. So basically, if ISAF forces were paying the most, then they would get the benefit of his trigger pullers. But the Taliban was, they were the highest bidder at that time. And what was interesting is one of these, I'm guessing he was probably a lieutenant, kind of mid-management kind of guy, was sitting down as we're eating. I called it armpit bread. It was this bread they throw into the side of the oven. When it's done cooking, it falls. Well, when they take it out of the oven, they just shove it in their armpit, and then they carry it to the table, and then everybody eats from it. But anyway, so we're eating the armpit bread, and one of the warlord's lieutenants said something, the most profound thing I'd ever heard. Of course, I didn't understand it when he said it. My interpreter had to translate for me. But what he said that he's like, you know what, we have more in common with our enemies, right? And he's talking about us, right, the Americans. He's saying that him is the bad guy, us is the good guy. We have more in common than we really realize, and that we should join forces because we are men of action. And what we should really do is join forces to kill the people who are men of talk. And I interpret that to mean, the politicians, the people who run their mouth to make money, to get reelected, but really don't do anything about it. They don't have any skin in the game. They're not willing to really stand up for anything. The whatever way the wind's blowing is the way they want to drive policy. But yeah, that was, I guess that was a really long-winded story to say that, it is people of action who are going to make a difference. And I'm not advocating violence. I'm advocating that people learn to defend yourself. If you don't own a firearm, buy one. If you have a firearm, you don't know how to use it, get training. If you've been trained but you haven't shot in a while, go shoot. And if you have all of these things, then share it with somebody else. Bring somebody else into the fold. Because if people aren't there to defend your right to defend yourself, then eventually we're all going to be lambs being led to the slaughter.
Absolutely. And I'm but really and truly, it's actually kind of true. They pass laws and regulations and everything that affect the general population that does not affect Congress, members of Congress. And because we do not have term limits established for them and everything, they don't care. As long as they can keep their ass in that seat up there on the hill, they don't care. That's one of the biggest reasons I think we need to have term limits, is so that way, I don't want to pass this law because in 2 years I'm going to be ineligible for re-election, and I really don't like this law, so yeah, I'm not going to pass it.
Yeah. Put the people who are making the laws in the same, have them walking in the same shoes that their constituents walk in, right? I mean, that's the only way you're gonna in there who makes decisions and policies that make sense and are actually effective.
Yeah, and for the love of God, please, when the next round of voting comes up, please do not elect some bartender with no government experience who doesn't even know the breakdown of our government structure.
And I don't know, man. that's what we need. Maybe we need a bunch of people who aren't career politicians to get in there and shake things up. I mean, for all of her idiosyncrasies, I guess she still got elected. And good on her. I mean, that's great. I just hope that if we're gonna get away from career politicians, that we get people who are at least a little bit familiar with how our government works.
Well, the best way I can see how it works out is there was the episode of Family Guy where Lois and Peter are running for school superintendent against one another, no. As a matter of fact, Lois was running for mayor. As a matter of fact. And she was bringing up all of these hot button issues that really needed to be addressed. And, nobody really cares. Quick, say something about 9/11. 9/11 was bad. Yay! And she gets elected. I really think that's kind of what happened with Ocasio-Cortez being elected.
Yeah, and that's that's all fine and well. I don't really expect much more from the Yankees, but I'm not sure if Jimmy's listening or not. That was a poke at him if he is.
Oh man, but yeah, and speaking of laws and regulations and what affects you doesn't have any effect on me. California, the golden child, as it were, of gun control and strict gun laws. Well, I have this article here in front of me from mercurynews.com. And the headline reads, California, capital of gun control, sees 3 mass shootings in 4 days. And to me, that headline basically says it's not working. All of your strict enforcement, can't have any more than 10 rounds, can't have a detachable box magazine in your AR-15. All of these can't haves in an effort to put a stop to mass shootings. It's not working.
Correct me if I'm wrong. One of those was a school shooting, right? The young man that I believe there was 2 KIA and 2 WIA, and then the shooter himself. And I may be wrong. I had read it last week or whenever it had happened, but so we were talking before the show. How do you protect something that you value? How do you protect your house, Danny?
First and foremost, I have standard locks on all of the doorknobs, to include deadbolt locks on all of the doors. I have locking screen doors. So really and truly, I have 2 doors that are locked. I have locks on all the windows. And then at that point, I also have firearms. I don't have security cameras. I don't have an alarm system or anything like that. I have doors with locks, and then I have my firearms.
Yeah, and so you're not relying on just the lock. You've also got your phone, right? You can call law enforcement.
Yeah.
You probably have some kind of lighting on the exterior of your house that you have control of, or maybe even has motions. I'm imagining. So my point is that you have multiple layers of protection. That's what you do for those things that you value. Schools don't seem to be using the same sense that we inherently know that you need more than just a fox to watch the hen house, right? Making gun-free zones a layer of protection. That's just saying, hey, bad guys, you're bad, if you break into my house and steal my stuff, right? That does nothing to prevent it. And setting up access, controls, so that only authorized people can make it, into an area. You have cameras, and I understand metal detectors and all that stuff, although, I'm not crazy about seeing them in schools. I get it. The children are our investment of the future. And if you have more security at a bank, which is just paper and coins, really, than you do at a school, then where are we really putting the value? What's really important to us as Americans?
Right. Yeah, I can walk into, and I have two banks that I bank with. I have not really a national bank, but kind of a regional bank. And then I also have a local mom and pop's credit union that I bank with. And I actually think the credit union has more security measures than the regional bank that I bank with. In that, on top of having the vault and the time locks and the security cameras and all that, they actually have, even though they don't always use it, they have access to armed security through the local police department.
Yeah, interesting.
So
how come we don't have armed? I've said it before. Why don't we've got? I can only imagine how many combat veterans there are that would volunteer or for very minimal compensation, absolutely dedicate and see it as a service to continued service to their country, to go to a school and be like, hey, if you're not going to defend yourself, I will, because they've done it before, and it's they've been trained, and I know we've talked about it on your other show before. That's one layer of protection that's too easy to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know the local high schools in the area around here, they have locking doors. All of the main entrance doorways and everything are locked. You cannot get into them without having either an access code or an access card, or without being granted entry from somebody at the main office. They have security cameras, they have fences, and they also have armed school resource officers. Now, granted, the high school in the city that I live in, it's a pretty good-sized campus. They only have one school resource officer there throughout the day. I think two, personally, would be better. But, I mean, yeah, they're getting by with one. I hope and pray to God I don't ever see a day where he ever actually has to do his job.
Right. But, and so I just had a text, and one of our listeners was talking about, that works in a prison. And they get X-rayed just to go inside. So I understand there's schools that have metal detectors, like I said before, but maybe we're protecting the wrong shit.
Absolutely. Yeah. I won't say let's take away all of the security measures from a prison, but let's just kind of let them police themselves. I mean, they're locked inside. That's, okay. Just let them, whatever happens. And let's worry about taking our future and hopefully seeing to it that they don't end up there. Or worse.
Right. And I think that all of this kind of goes hand in hand. I remember as a kid growing up watching scary movies, and they always talked about, mental insane asylums and things like that. I don't hear much of those anymore, right? I think we've basically turned our prisons into, a holding location for people who maybe don't have all the mental faculties necessary to operate in today's society. And you know, we slap them with a label, oh, they're a criminal, they're a felon, what have you. And what that does is that absolves them of having to treat the real issue, you know, and then they can say, you know, oh, well, because of this, you know, all of the people who have their, you know, wits about them, should be denied certain rights, you know, and you know, maybe I don't have all of my faculties. I just have been fortunate enough, but yeah, that's not the point. I'm getting off topic.
Yeah. So this article that I have talking about California, it says, and it shows a photograph. It says police work at the scene of a shooting Sunday, November 17th in southeast Fresno, California. Multiple people were shot and at least 4 of them were killed Sunday at a party in Fresno when suspects sneaked into the backyard and fired into the crowd. Now, it does not say... It says sneaked.
That's cute.
Yeah. It does not say what kind of firearm was used. Of course, you know, the school shooting that you were referencing earlier, hell, that kid used a .45 caliber handgun. It doesn't.
Yeah, and somewhere I read it said, you know, he knew how many rounds he had left, or you know, he had, yeah, I can't remember the exact, basically, yeah, he wasn't using a big scary gun, you know, like an AR style or military style rifle. He was using a pistol.
Yeah. So, and I was reading somewhere, I don't remember exactly where. I'll have to see if I can find the link for it to put it on our Facebook page to reference it. But handguns account for more homicide deaths with a firearm than, I think it said handguns account for more homicide deaths by firearm than rifles and shotguns combined. I don't know exactly how true that is, but it doesn't seem far-fetched.
No, and that's the thing. I think that you know, so firearms are pretty much firearms. I mean, yeah, they've changed in look and design, and some other features. You know, like the difference between an AR-15 and a Mini 14. You know, they fired the exact same cartridge. You know, except for the differences is one's. Well, I mean, there's a few differences, obviously, but you know, the pistol grip and some other things. The difference being that you know, if they can vilify the AR and say, oh well, yeah, this is a scary rifle, and people are like, oh yeah, that's a scary rifle. Well, if they're successful in getting restrictions placed on that, then they can just copy and paste that. They're like, oh well, because it's semi-automatic. You know, people in their mind who may not understand semi-automatic means will think that, oh well, you know, semi-automatic is bad, so anything that's a semi-automatic then falls under that list or that category of firearms that are banned. So it's kind of a broad brush way to control what people have access to. You know, before you know it, we'll be using muskets and revolvers again.
I mean, you know, personally, I wouldn't be opposed to, you know, swords and shields.
Yeah, but your sword's not long enough.
I mean, genetically speaking, but, you know, they make pills for that.
What they do?
I mean, I've heard. I might have known a guy, but yeah, no, I mean, I'm the type of individual that if you try to take my gun away from me, then good luck to you. You're going to have a bad time. If you do manage to take my gun from me and I'm not killed in the process, well, son of a bitch. Let me see what hey, I'm going to use this knife to defend. Oh, well, shit. mass stabbings are up. Well, now I can't have. Well, hey.
So what are some reasons for owning a firearm? I mean, besides obviously defending yourself.
Hunting. I know a lot of people that use them for hunting. Not me personally, but hunting. Sporting purposes. I use health therapy.
Recreation, right?
Yes,
recreation, competition, collecting, I part of me owns guns just because it's my constitutional right. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, the Constitution said it was important enough to defend this right. Hey, maybe it's not a bad idea. It was a warning from the founding fathers.
Yeah, absolutely. And my favorite argument that I like to hear from people was, the Constitution was written 200 years ago, and weapons have changed, and the founding fathers didn't know we were going to have fully automatic weapons and AR-15s, and I'm betting the founding fathers also didn't think we were going to have cell phones and Facebook and Instagram and all that other shit. So,
my response to that argument has always been the same: is that the Second Amendment doesn't give us as citizens anything. It prevents the government from taking away the right. Shall not be infringed. It sums it up in those last 3 words. 4 words.
Maybe we need to count. Maybe we need to plan a trip to DC, and we need to just stand up there on Capitol Hill and just pass out pamphlets to the congressmen and women as they're walking into the building, and it says "shall not be infringed." This is what it means, so on and so forth.
That's true, and we've discussed it before that nothing is absolute, right? Except for, of course, due process. So if they're going to take away your rights, you better get an opportunity to at least state your case in front of competent authority, a judge or something, and have a reasonable expectation that you're going to be represented and not just the subject of their gun grabs, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So now this article here about the whole California thing, it does go on to say that despite the mass shootings and the fact that gun control laws don't actually work, and I don't think the article says that. I haven't read the entire thing. That's just me saying gun control laws don't work. It does say, however, that California is still one of the lowest states in regards to gun deaths. It says the states with the lowest shooting death rates are Hawaii at 2.5%, at 2.5 per 100,000 residents. Massachusetts and New York with 3.7, and Rhode Island with 3.9, and then I think California falls in right behind that. I feel kind of bad because Alabama is on the other end of that spectrum, with 22.9 per 100,000. The Giffords Law Center Gun Control Advocacy Group gave California an A laws, and it is one of only 2 with the top rating. Hawaii, New York, and Massachusetts each got an A minus, and Rhode Island got a B minus. They gave Alaska, Alabama, Montana, and Louisiana an F. That's good job, Alabama.
Yeah. Well, if you're not cheating, you're not trying, and so sometimes I wonder how they, what statistics are they using, to base, to grade these states. I'd like to see how is there a correlation between the laws they've enacted and the change in that they've sought, and then are they also fairly comparing other forms, like violent crime? I believe it was London or maybe it was. I don't recall. They had said, nobody should have access to knives, right? Because there were so many stabbing deaths. And part of that was because they had also taken away the guns, right? You take away people's ability to defend themselves, and you embolden people to commit more crimes because there's no consequence. And until the criminals fear the victims, you're not really going to have change in crime. If there's no risk, Fox going into the hen now, he's going to keep coming back until the hunter or the owner of the chicken coop teaches the fox the lesson.
Yeah,
because the chickens aren't going to do it, right?
Yeah, the wolf doesn't fear the sheep, but he does fear the sheepdog.
Yeah, a much better analogy. My chicken coop. I don't know. I was looking at chicken coops this weekend. Stuck in my
head. Now, this article does include a tweet from the Firearms Policy Coalition, and this is a back and forth kind of tweet. It says, headline, mass killer breaks dozens of laws. Politicians, well, we need to pass more gun control laws. Next headline, mass killer breaks dozens of laws. Gun control supporters, more gun control laws would fix the problem. Next headline, mass killer breaks dozens of laws. And
right, so you keep making the net bigger to try to catch more people, but it's not protecting anybody, right? It just gives you more authority to throw more people in jail, which isn't really fixing the problem now, is it? I mean, you may get a temporarily remove somebody from the streets instead of reforming them and helping them. You're just kicking the ball or you're kicking the can down the road. It's not meaningful. It's not fixing the problem.
Yeah. Now, I do like this paragraph right here. It says, while California has low rates of gun deaths, that doesn't mean the country's most populous state doesn't have a lot of gun-related fatalities. There were 3,184 people killed by guns in the Golden State in 2017, about 18 times the 180 who died from guns in Alaska, which owned the highest gun death rate that year. The only state with more firearm fatalities was Texas, the second most populous state behind California, with 3,513 gun deaths in 2017, and an F rating by Giffords for its gun laws. So, that article tells me California had 3,000, despite all of their gun laws and everything, 3,184 people were killed, and they were given an A rating for all of their gun laws. Texas, with an F rating for their gun laws, only had 300 and some odd more gun deaths for the year 2017. So that tells me their gun laws aren't actually working out the way they hoped it would.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that and I understand. At least part of me wants to understand that these are people who the politicians, policymakers, want to make a change, hopefully for the good, to protect people, and maybe there are people who are funding or whatever. Anyway, but I think what's really important, like I said before, is that citizens, especially those who own firearms, know that it's important. Do no harm. That's not the reason of a gun. In order to do no harm, you have to get educated. You have to be smart about it. You have to be safe. You can't. You need knowledge. You need skills, and most importantly, you need the right attitude. I was talking to a person that was telling a story. They thought it was hilarious. They thought it was funny that they had a friend that had left a firearm in their house in the open, and when they came out of the bathroom, they thought it'd be funny to point it at them. Of course, the receiving end of this was that the person freaks out and is like, "What the flip are you doing?" But that just goes to show that this person obviously doesn't have the right attitude to be a gun owner, and a lot of that can come from gaining knowledge and skills.
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw it a couple of times. While I was deployed overseas, Marines in my platoon playing the trust game. Are you familiar with what that is?
No, I'm from Missouri, the show me state. I don't trust anything.
So the trust game is a Marine would take a magazine, put it in his rifle, and point it at somebody in the platoon, and then ask them, "Do you trust me?"
Yeah, well...
No, I don't trust anybody that much. Don't point your fucking weapon at me again.
Yeah, and to which I would respond, I trust you're going to receive that entire rifle in your rectum.
Yeah, the only way you're going to be able to turn the safety off is if you pick your nose. Yeah, that's...
The visual, man. Sorry, I had to take a minute. Because I was going to stick it the other way, but no, you're going buttstock first. No jelly or petroleum.
Nope, straight up sideways. As a matter of fact, I might even rub a little bit of dirt on it.
Yeah, spit on it.
So now, the article here, it does say, I was reading it earlier, but I hadn't read the entire thing. It does say what the 3 mass shootings are in the last 4 days. It says on Sunday, 4 people were killed and 6 more wounded in Fresno, when armed assailants sneaked into the backyard of a home and fired into a crowd that had come for a football party. I'm still, is sneaked even a word?
I'm going to look it up.
Yeah. On Saturday, 5 family members were killed and another hospitalized in an apparent murder-suicide shooting in San Diego. And then on Thursday, a 16-year-old Saugus High School student in Santa Clarita shot 5 classmates, killing 2 of them before turning the gun on himself.
Yeah, apparently it is a word. But snuck is the past tense, but when I typed it in, what I thought was wrong, sneaked. It yeah. So the English lexicon is definitely been under attack as well. But anyway, yeah. So for the people who don't like guns or hate guns or shootings and think that all guns are bad. They need to realize that the major cause of gun accidents are from what people do. It's not the gun that's doing it, right? And that's why I started my business, is because I'm here to keep you and your loved ones safe, right? I mean, there is a gun in 50% of the households in the United States, but there are enough firearms to arm every single man, woman, and child. So that means that half of the people own all of the guns, plus trillions of rounds of ammunition. So even for the people who are anti-gun and want to shelter, their loved ones, if they go into any other household in the United States, there's a pretty good chance that there's going to be a gun there also. So for them to stick their head in the sand and think that, as long as I don't have guns and I'm advocate for other people not having guns, then it won't affect me. But let me ask you this: when was the first school shooting?
Oh Lord, I'm gonna take a guess and say, just spitballing here, probably sometime in the late 1800s.
Okay, so I looked up list of school shootings in the United States, and it says that yeah, pretty much the 2000s is kind of where it begins, and I find that hard to believe. So I'm guessing, yeah, probably 19th century at the latest, right? What laws were there to prevent school shootings, right? Or what gun laws were there at all? And the answer is going to be simple. There were none. There were no gun laws at the first school shooting. So why do we have more shootings with more gun laws?
Okay, so I just pulled it up here, and November 12th, 1840, John Anthony Gardner Davis, a law professor at the University of Virginia, was fatally shot by student Joseph Sims and died 3 days later. And then it shows 3 shootings in the 1850s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the 60s, a handful in the 1870s, even more in the 1880s, yeah. So the very first one I could find, very first reported I could find, was University of Virginia, November 12th, 1840.
Okay, and so I'm going to try to find, like, what is the correlation of gun laws in the United States, right? I think we'll see that as school shootings, or I'm just using school shootings as an example. As school shootings have increased, so have the gun laws. But what difference are those laws making?
Absolutely, and it's for as far as I know, murder has always been illegal in this country. So
wait, what? Really? Damn.
Last time I checked, and
I'm moving to Canada.
Oh man, well, you may be on that same plane ride with Whoopi and all the other celebrities that swore they would move to Canada. But yeah, we're actually running short on time, so we're going to leave it there. Rod, I'll give you the opportunity to tell us a little bit about how the training program has been going with the veterans promotion you were running.
Oh yeah. So I've had a couple of students that have taken the opportunity to get their free training, and as a result, they absolutely want to come back, and they also want to bring their children to get that training from somebody who isn't necessarily a loved one. In the past, I've tried to teach my children or somebody in the family how to, like, swim, for example, and I'll give them the perfect instruction. And they get frustrated and they smack the water and they're like, oh, this is too difficult. But then I enlist the help of somebody else who gives them the exact same flawless period of instruction that I give. And the student is all of a sudden like, oh, that makes so much more sense. So that's why I say, if you bring somebody into the fold to get them into the shooting sports, but don't skimp on getting them the training, right? Because there's always somebody out there that wants to teach, that has the credentials to teach, and is willing to invest their time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, don't forget to go on Facebook, like us, follow us, interact with us. That's 2AT-Second Amendment Talk. Let us know what you think. Even if you hate us, let us know. I mean, I don't care if you hate me or not, but still, let us know. We want to know what everybody out there thinks. Monday nights, be sure to tune into my other show, Two Beards Talking, with my co-host Donnie J. That's from 10:30 to 11:30 p.m. time, Eastern time, rather, right here on Armed Radio. So yeah, Rod, I've definitely enjoyed this, and next week, I think we might plan something special for next week. I got some ideas cooking in my head, and I'll talk. So yeah, I got nothing more. Rod, have you got anything else?
You got another minute and a half. The important stuff is, like, if you don't own a gun, buy one. If you don't know how to use one, get And if you've got the training and you've got the gun, share it with somebody who you feel demonstrates the knowledge, skills, and attitude of somebody necessary. And that's what's going to perpetuate. That's what's going to defend our rights. Is more people who understand and enjoy it.
Absolutely, I agree. So yeah, definitely. Take the time, as we've been saying. Take the time to get the training and obtain the knowledge, and be a responsible gun owner. Absolutely. So yeah, again, big shout out to all the men and women deployed overseas and serving here on the home front. We appreciate everything that you do. Keep up the good work. Come home safe. Everybody here back home is rooting for you. This has been 2AT Second Amendment Talk on Armed Radio. I'm Daniel Sanders, and for Rod Burks, thanks for listening, everybody.
Deuces.